Hi, so today was my first time training this dog, and I'm wound up getting a pretty good amount of footage, probably about an hour's worth of like just walking with the dog and filming it so that you could see from kind of start to finish like how a training session goes. We went for about a 2 hour walk and I filmed about half of it. I waited initially uh, about 20 minutes into the walk to establish, connection, have my full attention on the dog, and then we got off the main street and went to the side street, and that's when I put out the video camera. Because you'll notice if you watch the whole series, at the end, this dog is walking like totally dialed in. And at this point of the walk, at the beginning, after we've only, been together for less than a half hour, this dog doesn't even care that I exist, basically. Like, they're just like, okay, I'll play along with you, but I'm just basically just looking to go for a walk. And if you're following me, that's cool. I don't really care. So that's great. I want to point out a few things right out of the gate. Just like any dog, like a few weeks ago, if you saw, I was working with like a little 2 pound Chihuahua with no teeth. And today I'm working with, an 85-pound gigantic fur ball that's like got a whole different temperament, you know? So it's all going to be the same for me, unless the dog is trying to like rip my face off or like actively just like be a straight up menace to society. I'm going to pretty much do the same stuff with all dogs. And I'm going to be mindful of their breed characteristics, their personality, their energy level, and all kinds of different things. And, what takes, 10 minutes with one dog might take an hour with another dog. But at the end of the day, it's all the same. So you'll see how the leash is right now? It's totally loose. And that's communication to the dog that they're free to just kind of do whatever they want. And as they walk ahead of me here, I don't really want them walking ahead of me, but their state of mind is pretty chill. So I'm just letting it go. And I'm communicating that it's okay by the leash. And as soon as they tighten the leash, I wanted to bring them back. And instead of coming back, they wanted to sniff. So I just was like, no, I asked you to come back. So same thing here. When the dog creates the tension on the leash, then I just like use the leash and my energy to bring the dog back around, at least so it's kind of closer to me. This is a Alaskan Husky mixed with like a Malamute maybe or a Samoyed. I personally think there's definitely some Akita in here because the nature of this dog is extremely independent. Unlike like a lot of pit bulls or something, this dog really doesn't really care too much about what the humans are doing. It's very independent. It's more of like a guardian flock, maybe garter dog, or a straight up like sled racing dog that's just designed to just move forward like for miles and miles and miles. And of all the dogs I've worked with recently, going back quite a ways actually, this dog was the least inclined to want to pay attention to me. I'm not saying it was like totally uncooperative, like, because you could see here, I view this as cooperation, even though it's like walking ahead of me and pretty much ignored me. It's still cooperating with me, like when I ask it to come back, it's not putting up any kind of fight really. So I would say this dog is an interesting mix of being cooperative to a point, and you'll see some instances where it gets a little headstrong here in the video, but it's also like not concerned about establishing any kind of like relationship with me. Like, we haven't made eye contact yet at all. And usually by a half hour into a dog walk, for the first time with a new dog, they're looking at me already. Like, not staring at me, but making considerable amount of like eye contact and just looking to me and at me and observing my energy. Whereas this dog, they just have no interest at all. And part of that is it's bloodlines, like whatever mix and you know conglomeration of DNA it's got in it, it's kind of just wired that way. Um, and then the Akita, you'll see one of the reasons why the dog owner wanted to get some training for his dog is because it has a pretty strong prey drive to the point where it can be a little bit intense when it sees other dogs out on the leash. He's been able to do some work on his own and has made some progress. But he just felt like it would be a good idea to bring somebody on. And I like the guys at that shop. And when we were mentioning, such and such, he was like, yeah, I think, it'd be cool if you work with my dog. So I'm like, word, I'm all about it. Like, let's see what we got here because, like I mentioned in another video, 9 times out of 10 when I'm dealing with a dog that the owners think might be aggressive, like dog aggressive or people aggressive, it's usually something else like insecurity or something else. But with this dog, nah, for real, like this dog has definitely got some low key aggression. It's definitely got some issues that are more of wanting to fly solo and not really look to the human too much. And it's an interesting case. I'm not used to dealing with dogs that are this aloof and independent. And it's a new challenge for me to make sure that I keep the pace nice and slow so that it's like really fair because one of the things that the owner described with this dog, and I experienced it myself on this walk, is something that's called redirection. When you have a dog that's really independent and used to making all of its own decisions and isn't really wired to be wanting to like super duper follow the human and pay attention to the human all the time, then when you do need to implement boundaries for a dog, they can get really frustrated about it and redirect their frustration onto whatever is the most available thing. In this case, the person holding the leash. So this dog is used to running around the yard by itself all the time. It spends all day at work with his owner, which is awesome. But in its off hours, he was saying, yeah, it's weird, the dog just wants to go outside and lay outside and kind of keep an eye on things. And that's getting back to that whole like sheepdog vibe. I think this dog has a lot of like European vibe and blood, plus the Alaskan Husky. I think every dog that's contributed to this dog's breed is of a more independent vibe. So this dog comes along and it's like this soup of like independence. Here's where I was talking about the leash and how to use the leash. The audio on this camera is pretty gacked. I'm not going to use it anymore. My apologies if the last video was pretty messed up. I know the second half of that video, the audio wasn't very good, and I won't be using this camera for audio any longer. That's why I'm doing a voiceover right now, because the audio from this video isn't it's just annoying. I don't know what it is, something with the mic. I'm describing the leash. They're pretty awesome. It's a whole nother thing. I'll probably re-upload this section again in another video and talk about the leash that I found on my backpack when I leaned over. It's a little camera mount thing. So this dog didn't have a lot of too much experience on the leash on walks, and when it did go on walks, it wasn't like it was like being trained to have boundaries. It was just like pulling ahead, doing its own thing, and then they're back at the house again, and the dog wants to like go off and like do its own thing. Yeah, I'm gonna upload this whole section again because I was describing my gear and how it all fits together. But I just want to keep this video flowing right now and give you guys like an actual timestamp. Like you notice there hasn't been any breaks in the camera yet or anything like that. Like this is actually like how it's going down in real time. And I think, for me, if I was watching a video about how to really learn how to communicate with my dog, I wouldn't want to be watching some super edited clip thing. I'd want to see like, well, what does it look like when it's not exciting? And like you could see, I start to have to wrestle with this dog because it's actually really intelligent, and it's getting the vibe more that okay, he wants me a little closer to him. And as I ask it to be, the closer I ask it to be, the more of an inconvenience it's going to be, the fact that it wants to walk literally directly in front of me. Like you would notice like at the beginning when I was just giving it the whole length of the leash, it was walking like directly in front of me, like we were on a tightrope. But there was enough leash where it wasn't making me fall. Now that I asked the dog to, you see what I'm doing here? This dog is very intelligent because what it's doing is as it's realizing I'm asking it to step back and match its head with my plane, like keep us on the same horizontal plane. It's like right here and walk with the dog positioned here. It's realizing, okay, if I move forward, he's going to ask me to move back. So what it started doing, and it really committed to it. It started, whenever I would ask it to go back a certain amount, it would just want to go behind me. And that started to, in the beginning, I just was like, no big deal, just let's, whatever. But we walked for literally like, I think like 2.5 hours straight. And toward the end of the walk, it was starting to get a little, I realized that I had to, okay, so there's a dog. You can't see it yet, but you see the reaction we're getting. And because the dog is way up behind this gate. Here, what I'm going to do, let me stop this. I'm going to switch to original audio. So you could see that dog was being pretty intense, and I needed to be real on point with this white dog here to keep it from going right up through the gears. Like it would have escalated real quick if I didn't like nip it in the bud fast and make it real clear to this white dog that like, look, we are not interacting with this dog. And you could see the first dog freaking out made the dog at the next house start barking before it even saw us. So we had like a couple houses in a row there where it was kind of challenging for this white dog. And the way I addressed it was to just be very firm and clear, but not punitive at all, and just say, look, we're not going to do that. Because if I turned like real meek and like unsure of my vibe at that specific second, this dog would have like been up against that fence, right back in that dog's face, matching its vocalizations bark for bark, and it would have been like a ridiculous like drama scene. So before we even got up to the fence, we didn't break stride. I didn't hesitate because that would have been perceived as doubt and weakness and just uncertainty. So I needed to show the dog, like, look, like, just vibe with this. Don't like be scared of this dog and just trust me, guy or girl or whatever. And it's funny, later in the video someone stops and asks me like, oh, what's the dog's name? And I was like, actually I do not know. And that's my whole point, is because I don't use the dog's name when I'm training it. It doesn't matter to me what the dog's name is. It's just a dog. And so, and that, believe it or not, that actually helps the dog um you know figured out. So here's the dog's reward. You see this? You see how I'm letting her sniff all around this little spot? Usually by like the poop trash cans, there's always all kinds of good smells. So because the dog, we made it, this far in the walk, and we just went through that couple, houses in a row of barking dogs, I'm just like, okay, cool, let's recalibrate. You cool? You wanna do anything? There's a little tension on the leash, see here, but I'm not like tripping on it too bad. I'm just like, we're good. I make sure it loosens up just a little. See, I bring her back just enough to let it loosen up, and then I let her be again. Because what I'm doing right here is I'm saying, yo, I appreciate that you are cooperating with me. And, I figure maybe you would want to stop and smell, and she's feeling that. But you see, unlike a pit bull who would be all wagging his tail and wanting to get, licks and pets, this dog is like, really does not care. I don't even think she could tell you what I look like at this point in the video. I think she's looked at me like twice. And definitely not in like an eye contact kind of way where they're actually trying to connect. So we were talking about how smart this dog was, and how as I start to ask it to move backwards, it's smart. It's like, okay, well, if he wants me back here, I'm gonna like undercut from the back and come around the other side and pass him on that side like a race car. Like, some movie, you slam on the brakes, go on the other side, and then speed up again real fast, And, in the beginning, it's like, okay, whatever, as long as I don't fall. But over the course of the walk, once I realize the dog is doing something as a strategy, then I like have to address it, because it's like, look, you have to understand the dog has to understand. It can't just be going through the motions and trying to look for gaps and weaknesses so that they can still just continue to do whatever they want. They need to understand that whoever's holding this leash, if they're worthy of the respect, they need to be treated with respect. And that's all I'm asking of the dog is, hey, please treat me with respect. Like, don't cut me off. Don't make me trip by walking in front of me. You see, that's why the dog was literally like, would have made me fall over and over again if I was just trying to walk without paying attention. It had no compunction whatsoever about just literally like cutting right in front of me. Like, it just didn't care. And as I asked it to stay back, then it started cutting behind me. And it was doing that thing, like, how when you're taking stride, if someone kicks your back foot when you're walking, you're going to trip. So like, she was keep trying to walk behind me, and she kept knocking my one foot into my other foot. I mean, it started to be like something that I really need to address, and I'll talk about it more in some as is part 2 and 3, because we're just getting started here. But as we get more into the walk, the way that I use these walks as training is I um, start off real gentle where the dog gets a lot of freedom, and then for the dog's own safety and its own good in terms of understanding boundaries, etc., as we get a better relationship and I understand that the dog is hearing me, it's not like, oh wait, a half hour goes by, I'm just going to start being more demanding. No, I wait for the dog to feel like it's being the dog feels like it's being respected by me, and then I start to implement some more firmer boundaries. So this is like the first time the dog even smelled me right there. And that's all I'm asking for at this point. Is like, look, just don't forget I'm here, and pay attention to me. So this is another little reward. It's not hot. It's like really beautiful. It's like high 60s, low 70s, like no humidity. It's like, but it feels nice in the shade. And we're getting ready to walk up on a road crew that's like cleaning up for the day, and they got two guys with leaf blowers blowing dust all over the place. And as we're walking up towards them, the one guy actually stopped his leaf blower out of courtesy, because they were literally going to be like blowing dust clouds like right in our face. And I could tell he was waiting for us out of just being a nice guy. And so I waved at him, and we just turned around and walked back the other way, because I didn't want him to have to wait for me. I mean, he's trying to finish up for the day. And so this is where I says, okay, well, we're gonna, because I knew we would be at least a couple minutes. And I mean, if you're working and you're just standing there and you're waiting for somebody, a couple minutes feels like a real long time. So I didn't want to interrupt his day. So I didn't really even know where we were going. I've never really been over here. We're in some neighborhood behind the dude's shop where he works, and right now we're around like a park and some houses. But you'll see in the next video we get out into some like real industrial area. And that's the point. It's like the dog can kind of feel that I'm focused, but yet I don't have like this agenda. Like, the most important thing for me is to connect with the dog, teach the dog that I want to share this together, and therefore I want their state of mind to be somewhat attentive to me. The behavior of them wanting to pull ahead is unpleasant, but what makes it unpleasant to me is the fact that it's because the dog is ignoring me. So as I show this dog that I want to communicate with it and share this experience, that's what my goal is. And you'll see I have to yank it around, and there's some dogs. I'm not gonna put the audio back on, but there was some guy having his two little yapper dogs running around off leash, loose in this park, and had like no control over them. So he had to start walking the other way and hope they follow him. And they weren't really following him. They were kind of coming towards us. So that's a whole nother subject. But basically, she got pretty worked up because she's like, I don't want any part of these two little yapper dogs like running up in my space. Like, I will regulate that quick. Like, that's what her mind was saying. So I had to be like, yo, you ain't regulating nothing. Let's just chill and wait for this to like drift past us. And you notice I ain't trying to go toe to toe with this white dog. Like, I'm not trying to teach her advanced calculus on the first day of algebra class. All I want from her is to just pay attention to me and keep it in the lower gear. And for now, that's all that's really fair for me to ask from her. So we're getting ready to wrap this first section of the video up, and I think we stopped and I fed her some water, and then we took this trail over here, and it wound up spitting us out on like more of a main road. I'll upload that tomorrow, and we'll just keep talking. But it's like I want you to experience like a consecutive training session, like from start to finish, and actually observe with your own eyes how the dog responds to this kind of stuff. So here's where I put the camera down, and that's going to be it for today. So thanks for watching.